Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast. Each week, your host, Casey Hasten, Director of Recruiting at VIP, will bring you valuable insights from thought leaders, introduce you to incredible companies, and bring you tips for landing your dream job from our team of executive recruiters at VIP. And now, Casey Hasten.
Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast, a podcast devoted to adding value to your career or candidate search, brought to you by VIP. I'm your host, Casey Hasten. I'm an executive recruiter, director of recruiting with VIP, and your all-around hiring guru. And I have just got the best life because I get to meet so many fabulous people and bring those conversations to you each week. So today is no different. Today on the show, I'd like to welcome Terri Jacke, founder of Inspired Training Institute, speaker, coach, and author. She's got a lot going on. Terri is the author of Is This a Lousy Job or Is It Me? A real-life guide for achieving success at work. Terri strives to help executives and business owners by guiding the growth of their character as a foundation for increased leadership effectiveness and teamwork. So welcome to the show, Terri.
Well, thank you, Casey. It's great to see you.
I know, again.
Again.
So I always like to start the show with sharing with our audience how we got connected. So pop quiz.
Good.
How did we get connected?
Was that through Lori Ames? Was that how we were connected?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't remember. I remember telling you had to meet Pilar, and you told me I had to meet a gentleman, and his name escapes me right now, Fergie.
Oh, yeah. Did you? So Scott Ferguson.
Yeah, we're in touch. Yep. So we're in touch. We're all hooked up. And then you did talk to Pilar. So we've done our networking effectively, I'd say.
And that's and I just attended a networking event this morning. It's the one that I, devote most of my time to. And it is just amazing to me when you start tracing the web of connections, how people get connected. And also, it seems like you get connected at just the right time, just when you're supposed to.
Oh, completely agree with you. I completely agree. I have a really cute networking story. It's off topic for the podcast, but a friend of ours many years ago referred us to a floor installer, and we've used him remodel at our house. We're now building a new house, what we're calling it our retirement house, a few miles north of where we live now on a little more land. And we had introduced that floor installer to our designer back then. Well, our designer has since introduced him to the world, and his business has more than quadrupled in the last 4 years. So he's coming to do our flooring at our new home at a ridiculously reduced price as a thank you. A practical use of networking.
That is, and how long ago was it that you met him?
It probably the first time was 2016. Okay. And then he came into the remodel in 2018.
That is amazing. And so I think here, another lesson to this is it takes time. You can't expect fruit from the first meeting. It can happen.
It can. And then what's interesting is when you are a generous networker, my mind is, you know what, but Rich and Jill referred him to us. And we're getting the benefits. So, we'll take Rich and Jill out to eat and thank them. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think you need to be thoughtful and generous in your networking and remember where the connections came from as well as where they're going, especially if you benefit from them. So,
one little tip, and I'm sure you probably already know this, but maybe for our audience, is I keep a networking notebook with me at all times.
Ooh, good idea.
And so I write down the name of the person, the date, and who introduced me to them.
Oh, good. I really should do that.
Yeah, it's
so helpful. Do you know how
helpful.
many I've probably forgotten over the years? My Lord. I'm going to have to do some sort of excavation work to start this notebook.
It's just so helpful. So helpful.
Yeah,
and especially when you're meeting a lot of people, and then somebody will reach out to you later, and you may not remember them if you only talk to them for 30 minutes. Okay, and that's okay. Give yourself some grace. But if you have that little notebook, you can go back and look. And read your notes. So
yes, that's a great idea, especially for people starting their career. maybe especially for people older as our memory starts to fade, but especially people younger in their careers, what a great habit to get into. And what an incredible kind of documentation of your journey. That's just really a neat
Absolutely.
idea.
Think
That's
of it.
another book idea for you.
Oh, yeah. Think of it as the little
Mhm.
black book of networking.
I like it. I don't know about the connotations of Little Black Book, but yes.
Oh,
Don't
so
confuse it with the other Little Black Book of Dating.
exactly, exactly. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Inspired Training Institute and how it has grown since you launched it in 2003.
Well, in 2003, it started out with me in my spare bedroom. And it was me on my own for a couple of years, as many startups are. And within 5 years, there was five of us, not in my spare bedroom anymore. We had offices and we had over 40 clients and we were very successful financially. And that went on, I think we operated like that for almost 8 years. And then I had an opportunity to, a longtime client who had been with me basically since the beginning asked me to come in as a chief learning officer. So they were going through a tremendous transformation. And they, since that time, the transformation was successful. They have exploded in growth. It's an electrical contracting company, just absolute amazing growth. But they needed to be retooled, so reconfigured from mom and pop shops to an enterprise. And they wanted a learning foundation and a learning organization. So I was able to go in and help them with that. I kept a few clients. I found jobs, helped all my employees find jobs, took an employee or two with me, and then kept five clients on the side with the permission of the company that I was working with, and with the intention of always going back to my firm, probably because it was my calling. I had always felt it was my calling, but I also felt very compelled to help this client because I knew their story and I knew what was at stake for them and all their employees. And so I came back to Inspired 3 years later, 2.5, 3 years later, kept the client that I had gone to work for as well at that time. And I realized I really didn't want employees because I was spending so much time those prior years leading employees that I wasn't spending as much time as I wanted with clients. So this time I set up a different model, and now the people who work at Inspired Training Institute with me, they are running their own businesses. So the model is kind of that of, for simplicity's sake, a franchisee or a licensee, if you will. And we work together seamlessly as a team. Work moves between us. Often we're all working at the same client doing different work. So I'll work with the executive team perhaps. Mandy will work with the frontline leaders and Deb will work with mid-level leaders or something, whatever it may be. But right now there are three of us, and I believe there's another individual coming on the team within the next 2 years. She wants to move through retirement and retire from where she is right now. She's a physician, so it's important to her to finish out that career. And meanwhile, we're working together and developing her to become an executive coach. And we're all doing very well. And Deb and Mandy have grown so tremendously over the last 7 years. It's been exciting to watch them grow. So at this point, we are primarily doing coaching, all levels of coaching, leadership coaching, executive coaching, and career coaching. And then we do a lot of team intervention work. We also do some curriculum development, which used to be a staple of ours. Now we only really do it when we're with a longtime client, and it's something we can do to reinforce some of the coaching we've done or memorialize and spread some of the coaching that we've done. So we're doing pretty much all things organizational development, but we tend to have larger clients that are longer term and we move around. The goal is always to work ourselves out of a job and not create dependency on us. However, when you have success in areas, then they want to replicate it in different areas. So you're standing up several different functions or departments or businesses within the enterprise. But it's been very rewarding. Recently, I have brought on, and I've told you before when we've spoken before, Casey, I'm no longer accepting new clients personally. My team is, but my dance card is so full. And then I violated my own rules, so we can have a lecture about boundaries maybe later because two little startups, one technology and one in healthcare, individuals I know from a long time of living in this area have asked me to help them launch. And, you can't say no to helping somebody launch their dreams. So I do have two startups that I'm working with, and it's such a lovely juxtaposition to corporate enterprises to watch them staff and develop people. So it's been so fun. I'm enjoying this part of my career here in my 50s. This is lovely.
It's so much fun when you find your passion zone and you don't really work a day in your life.
Agreed. I'm absolutely loving it. So I do have these rules I create for myself, like,
Sure.
don't take on any more clients. And sometimes I realize that's because I'm trying to manage workload, which is forever an issue for me. But on the other hand, I want to do the things I enjoy. So it's this constant balancing act, I think, that most of us doing things we love are dealing with at all stages of our career. So that's where I
Absolutely.
am.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's a good segue into my next question, because you provide career coaching to people at all stages in their career. What kind of support do job seekers benefit the most from?
I think job seekers benefit the most from very objective, unbiased, honest feedback about their resume, about their interviewing style, skills, about the way they're going after a job, about their LinkedIn profile,
Hmm.
about all of those things. And you're not going to get that from, Uncle Mike or mom or a sibling, or even a close friend. And I really think it's worth getting, if you need to pay a coach or somebody to help you, or a recruiter or whomever who can help guide you on that process with objectivity and an investment, care for your success, genuine care. But I do think that if you do not receive that feedback, the opportunity for misstep or the opportunity to keep repeating a mistake and not knowing it is there. And
Hmm.
I also think there's I don't want to call them tricks, but there's advice that an objective resource can offer you around your interview materials,
Hmm.
things you bring with you, the types of questions you ask. And I also think that we have a tendency at times to be more honest with somebody who isn't too close to us about what it is we're looking for and what we want. I think it's, especially if we're younger, there's often a lot of shoulds kind of embedded within us about what mom wants us to be, what this
Yep.
person wants us to be, or that person. And when you're talking to an objective, unbiased person, they can maybe work you through your value system. And what are your values? What stage of character development are you in? All of these things can influence what you might be looking for at that time. So I just think it's worth the money, and it's going to accelerate your ability to find what you're looking for and find the right fit for what you're looking for.
So you said something that I wanted to you said a lot that I could bring out, but there was one thing in particular that I think a lot of people do. And you said some people feel like they do things that they should do.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
that is such a guilt word. And it's,
Isn't it? Yeah.
if you should do it, that means you don't really want to. You're only doing it because somebody said you should, right? But if
Yeah.
you want to do it, that's an entirely different energy that you bring to the table. And I don't know if you've heard this before, but somebody told me once, quit shoulding all over me.
Yes. Yes. We tell people they're shoulding all over themselves. Don't should
Exactly.
all over yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, don't
And
don't should.
I teach people you can, in any sentence, you have the option to use the word should, replace it with could, because should implies judgment, could implies options. I should work for a bank. I could work for a bank.
Hmm.
So replace should with could, and you're opening up exploration. If you keep the word should in there, exploration is closed.
Yep,
And it might not even be your own desires that you're following.
that is
So you'd
so
have work
good.
to do there.
So, what do you recommend when people say I need to? Because I think that's just as much of a guilt word too.
Yeah, I have to and I need to. And
Yes.
then I'll say there's a difference between need and want. And you don't have to do anything but pay taxes and die. So walk me through this. Help me understand why you're using the word need. Where is that coming from? And many people just correct themselves. They're like, well, I guess I would like to, or I want to, or it's my desire to. And I'm going, okay, that's great. That empowers you. So I just try to remind them where their power is. And that's all any development is it's trying to remind a person where their power is, and
Yes.
then teach them where And the whole thing is the words you use are so important because it's shaping your limbic system is listening to it.
Yep.
It's like a voice activated recorder, and everything you say is truth to it. And that's the data it uses to make future decisions. So when you should, or you need, or you have, that's what you're conditioning yourself to believe. And you are reducing options. You're reducing freedoms for yourself. And why would you intentionally do that?
You know, one of my mentors once told me that if someone put a megaphone up to my head and could hear what I was saying to myself, they would probably, commit me somewhere. Because we talk to ourselves so horribly. I mean,
Yes.
some of the things we say to ourselves, we wouldn't say to our worst enemy. And
Yes.
so,
Oh, I would agree.
and that, I believe, influences even those thoughts, not just what you say. Those thoughts can influence that limbic system as well and impact how you view the world. You get to choose how you view the world.
Agreed. You can choose how you view yourself. I agree. And if I may,
Yes.
I absolutely love your book. And I would say that you hit on the stuff in there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're hitting on the mind mapping. You're hitting on raise your awareness of these internal conversations and your internal dialogue and internal critic. Pay attention
Yep.
and adjust if you need to. It's a hard habit to break if you've done it your whole life.
Yeah.
It really is, but it's worth doing.
I think any personal development work, I'm such a personal development junkie, and it's not that I'm trying to tell other people what to do, but I'm like, you're missing out. I promise you, you're missing out.
Yeah.
This is so much bigger than what we think it is.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So, okay, so what kind of support do people that are further along in their career typically benefit from? Like somebody like me.
Yeah. So further along, the people that I'm coaching who are more seasoned in their careers, there's probably categories. And if I took the time, I could probably categorize it for you. But I would say there's one group of people who are still needing self-awareness. They're still needing to discover their own gifts and talents. And they still have the option of learning more about what they're capable of and what drives them. So there are some people who, even very successful people, who make it into their 40s and 50s and haven't done that work. And so I love setting those people free. It's a huge passion of mine. There's another group of people who are stalled later in their career. And so then you start doing values alignment work. Then you start working with them on character development and where are you and what does that mean to you? And now that you know where you are, where do you want to go from here? How do we align these parts of you? What's changed from when you were younger? And then there's a group of people, and I seem to be working with many people who we're preparing for retirement. We're doing a lot of succession work with several of our clients. And these people trying to have the conversations about what comes next. Maybe they're 2 roles away from retirement, but let's kind of look out over the horizon and figure out how we're going to start mapping you. And what does that mean about the decisions you're going to make for your career? How can you move comfortably into life after this role or life after work? And how do we start to prepare you? Because when you're not prepared, it can be very uncomfortable and difficult. I have one gentleman right now, I'm watching him struggle mightily and it's breaking my heart. And this morning, as I was telling you before we got on the air, I have a brand new puppy. She's 10 weeks old. Her name is Lulu. So she was chasing our cat, one of our 2 cats, Mila, up the stairs. And little Lulu chased Mila right to the top of the stairs. And then I said, Lulu, come back down. She can't get down the stairs.
Oh, no.
And my thought was, I eventually save her. I get her. No, our animals were harmed in the story. However, all I could think was, oh my gosh, we'll call my client Bob. This is Bob. Bob was striving and just blindly ran up the stairs. And now I need him to come back down the stairs to retirement. I need him to settle into himself. And he has no idea how to come back down the staircase. So I'm looking at my dog going, how do I help Bob come back down the stairs? And I'll share the analogy with him when I meet with him next week. But that is a whole other segment of coaching for people further along in their careers. And then I would say there's a final category of just people who are struggling to work with difficult people or difficult assignments. And that's kind of classic development stuff. And that's helping them navigate those issues, learn new skills, refresh skills that they've learned and long since forgotten, and just kind of restoring them so they can be more effective. I'd say that would probably be the 4th category. but I'm dealing with many, many people stuck on the staircase right now.
I love that analogy. That is awesome. I mean, and that could be applied to so many other areas of, our work life. And yeah, that is a great analogy. Probably going to
Right?
borrow it from you.
You may, because I mean, think about it. You're climbing. You're just blindly climbing to get
Yeah.
to the top. I want to get to the top, and I'm chasing something, some drive or some goal or something. And then you get there, and you don't stay there forever. You don't
Right.
stay in a career until you die. So how are you?
Or
You know,
even once you reach that goal, you know,
correct. There's
I
either another staircase or you go some
exactly.
other direction.
Oh my
Little Lulu could
gosh.
not. Yeah, I'm going to try and write one of my blogs, one of my inspired blogs on the idea. So I'll send it to you. You might
Yes,
be on the mailing
please.
list, but I'll send it to you because I was playing with it and I was thinking when you're running up the staircase, it's fine to do that. Absolutely run up the staircase, but take stock and jot down things. I want to remember to go back to that at some point. I want to remember to spend time doing that. I learned this month or this year that it's important that I do X, Y, and Z, whether that's spend time in nature
Hmm.
or I want to stay connected to some of this administrative work because that still turns me on, even though I'm now an executive. Whatever it is. So there's some
Breadcrumbs.
sort. Yes, leave yourself a trail to get
Yeah.
back on the stairs. And exercise those muscles so you remember how to do that. There's a whole thing here, and maybe you and I will work on another book, and we'll write a book about the staircase, rushing
Well,
up the staircase. Remember, you got to come back down.
that when you were talking about that, that made me think of my own Lulu moment. So
Oh, you had a Lulu moment.
I've got a Lulu moment. I dashed up the stairs. I can't get back down. So we'll have to talk offline about that one. But
Okay.
it
I
so
love it.
explained it.
Lulu moment. That's what it's called now. I love it.
Okay, so in your book, you talk about the Bifable model. Can you explain what that is and how it helps professionals?
Absolutely. So the Bifable model is basically it's the 7 stages of character development if we choose to use work as a platform in our lives to develop our character. And since we spend so much time at work, and we run into and bounce off of so many different people and situations, it is the perfect environment to develop our character. And I define character as just classic definition, one's mental and moral qualities. So our mental and moral qualities can always be growing, especially when we face challenges and hurdles and barriers and even achievements and successes. Those are opportunities to develop our character. And so Bifable actually is the acronym, and it's the first letter of each of the 7 stages. And those stages are beginning, yuckiness, fear, authenticity, boundaries, love, and exit. So if you would go linearly through your entire career, you'd probably move right through all of those. However, people do kind of slide back or step back or get stuck. Some people never make it out of the fear stage, for example. I've witnessed more than once. But each stage has its own moral, if you will, its own focal point. And it's something that I realized I was doing when I was meeting coaching clients that at first, this took me years to figure out that I was assessing character, first of all, because I'm an MBTI and Clifton Strengths junkie. So I assumed that I was looking for their type and looking at their strengths, et cetera. And in the end, what I was actually looking at was their character, their mental and moral qualities. And so I started to realize that I was assessing which of the 7 stages people were in, and that was influencing the way I was coaching them. So, in terms of how this helps professionals, I would say it helps them if they know what stage they're in, then they know what they should be focused on. They know what they should be trying to grow and how to grow it. So, for example, the fear stage, and I have a little bookmark here that has the 7 stages on it.
I didn't get one
And
of those.
I will make sure you get one of those. Isn't it fabulous, though? It's a little
Yes.
reminder. But the fear stage, the moral of that stage is to be cautious and be thoughtful about how you're interacting with others. And it's a stage where we put up, protective bubbles around ourselves and we try and protect our egos and the way people perceive us. And we're freaked out by how maybe mean or unprofessional or disrespectful people can be in the workplace. That's
All of
all stuff
those.
we're figuring out. Yes, we're figuring all that out at the fear stage. And if I am working with somebody who's in the fear stage, then I know that I'm going to look at their mental and moral qualities. So mental qualities, their ability to reason and make decisions, their ability to, I'm going to pull my list over here because I have an example in mind, be resilient and choose their responses. Those are just a few of the mental qualities that make up our character. And what I'll work with them on is if they are dealing with a difficult situation, I will specifically pull out, choosing your responses. What are all the ways you could respond to this difficult person? Let's talk through them. And we talk about reactivity and proactivity. And I zero in, it helps me focus on the mental qualities that they need to develop to pull themselves out of fear. And then I'll also look at some of the moral qualities like integrity. You could also badmouth this person who is badmouthing you, but let's talk about integrity. That is a moral quality. So I'll work with them where they're at, and I will pick a couple of mental and moral qualities and develop them from the lens of fear and help them see they can choose to move themselves past the fear stage and then lay out a map of the authenticity stage. So it just gives people a sense of placement in their career and their development so they know where they are now and how to move forward from it most effectively. Because if I were coaching you and I realized you were in the fear stage, I certainly can't come and coach you as though you're all the way into the love stage, because it won't resonate. Nothing will mean anything. You wouldn't develop from it. So I've got to meet you where you're at. And it's more than workplace skills. It's more than, as much as I love temperament and I love strengths, it's more than that. It's deeper than that. And frankly, I fundamentally believe that employers, I don't want to say an obligation, but I think they have an opportunity to help develop the character of the people who work for them. Just as I think employers have an opportunity to demonstrate corporate citizenship and great character in their corporate citizenship. So this is one way to do that, by talking character in the workplace and trying to not just develop a good company, but good people within it.
Well, and I think that is so important. But I think also it begins with me, right? It begins
Absolutely.
with you. And so, and I can tell you, when I started letting go of, if that person's angry, at me, how does that make me feel? Instead of worrying about why, I'm trying to make sure I'm wording this correctly. Instead of worrying about if they're angry at me or why they're angry at me, I push that back on them. If I can look at myself and know that I didn't do anything, I'm not mad because they're mad at me. I just know I didn't cause it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So. And so 2 quick things on that. No one can make you angry. You choose your feelings. Nobody can make you feel anything. You choose. You can say that behavior is upsetting to me. Mm-hmm. I feel badly about that, but he made me mad. No, he did something. You're mad. Those are 2. You chose that. You could choose a different reaction. And I think the second thing is, and you articulated it perfectly, we really need to give people the space and grace to have their own emotions. If they're mad, please stop trying to figure out a way to take it personally and own somebody else's anger or upset. Please give them the space and the grace. They're entitled to their own emotions. You don't need to step in or make it about you. Let them work through it. And I tell leaders that as well when they need to have an uncomfortable conversation with an employee. They're going to be upset. You can't avoid A, this conversation, it needs to happen, and B, you can't avoid the fact that they're going to have an emotional reaction. Please give them the space and the grace to have that emotional reaction, that they're going to be fine. You might hurt them, but you're not harming them. There's a big difference. It's going to hurt. It won't harm them. Be a leader, do your job.
And it might just help them.
Space. It usually does. Amen. Agreed.
I was having a conversation earlier today with one of my candidates, and they were talking about how much they hated their job, and not that they hated their job, but that they weren't getting the level of support that they'd hoped that they would get there. And my advice, my first question was, "Have you told them?" And
absolutely.
And the answer was no. And I'm like, look, if you don't address the situation here, you're going to find that pattern happening over and over and over again, and you're not going to be happy. Yes. So you've got to try to fix it here, have that difficult conversation. If that doesn't work, then reconsider your options. But you got to fix it here first.
Yeah. You had asked me the question about somebody, if they're unhappy in their or unmotivated in their current job, what do they do or what can they do? And I would say exactly what you just said. And I talk about that also in my book is if you are unhappy or unmotivated in your current job, like the person you're talking about, then how are you going to turn that into a personal development academy? If you're already knowing that you're probably leaving and this person obviously is working with you and looking around, great. Then you have nothing to lose by trying new skills, like telling people what you really would like and what would help inspire you at work or what would make your job easier. You have nothing to lose by trying to establish healthier boundaries or having the difficult conversations or trying different techniques to grow your character and your mental moral qualities. So I try and tell people, you know what, is it a lousy job or is it me? Yes. The answer to that question is yes. All jobs have lousy elements, and it's also you. You get to decide how this is going to be for you, and you can turn it into a growth opportunity for yourself, whether you choose to stay or go. And I usually am able to talk people into, before you start applying elsewhere, if you could do anything, if you could act any way you want, if you had the courage and the bravery, courage is a moral quality, to do anything you want, what would you do? What would you say? How would you handle yourselves? And they'll tell me all these amazing things. And I'll say, okay, so your job is to do that for 1 month. And then we'll talk about whether or not you want to leave. All those things you just listed, I want you to do them for 1 month. And then let's talk. And sometimes, rarely, at the end of that month, they're like, yeah, I'm still out. Like this place is hell and I'm out. And I'm like, okay, hey, but what did you learn? And then we'll take an inventory. And they're like, I did, this actually felt good to say this. And I handled myself pretty well, or I didn't handle it very well, but it felt good. So I got to figure that out. I'm like, well, let's keep practicing here while we're looking, keep working on that. Use it as an opportunity to grow. This is your own personal development academy. Go nuts.
I love how you call it your own personal development academy. So I want to really quickly, because I love this book, is this a lousy job or is it me? And I think that, what you've been talking about, what motivates people, and, can you just really quickly give us some tips on how people can feel more motivated at work when they're not happy? Just something in a nutshell, something we can do right now.
More motivated at work if they're not happy. What I would like them to do right now is to make a pro and con list about what they like or don't like about their job. They're unhappy. Make a pro and con list. And then I want you to go down the con list and I want you to figure out, first of all, yay for the pros. Oh, I have pros. There are pros. I didn't think there were pros. Look at the con list. Okay, can I address that? What can I do differently? Do I need to set a boundary there? Am I actually helpless here, or is there something I can do? So I want you to be thinking about, what are the resources available to me here to change this? Do I need to set a boundary? What are the options for me to improve these cons? Because I'm wanting people to lean into their own power. I'm wanting people to overcome, because part of feeling unhappy is you start to feel like a victim or you adopt some learned helplessness perspectives. And so if you could look at the pro and con list, and even if you could find 1 or 2 things on the con list and go, why am I letting that crappy situation ride? I'm gonna say something, and then maybe talk to a mentor or talk to somebody to figure out how to say it well if you haven't done it before. But take action on a con or 2 and just do it. Just make the pro and con list, pick 1 or 2 of the cons and choose to take action on them. Outcomes be damned. Let go of attachment to the results. Just lean into you and love on you enough to do this, and do that. Just do that. And then if that works and it takes you even a smidge out of the unhappiness, then I want you to keep looking at this pro and con list and updating it. Make an appointment with yourself, a date night, once a month at least, if not more frequently, and ask yourself, am I happy? What's helping me at happiness? What's not? And keep this going and keep looking at it and keep visiting it and keep adding more and more power to yourself. And if at some point, it gets so lopsided on the cons and you've tried all the things that you could try and you've used all the resources you can, then maybe you have some sort of cutoff planned. If it gets to this, then I'm looking elsewhere, or then I'm doing something else. But I think empower yourself with action and empower yourself with a plan. And if need be, even design your exit strategy, but leave well. Don't leave badly, leave well. Never burn bridges for networking reasons we just talked about.
So very true, for sure.
Yes.
So, oh man, I think that is a perfect place for us to move into our VIP questions.
Yeah,
just love on yourself. So, nobody's going to love you more than you do. So,
That's
not
right.
even your mom. Sorry.
That's right. That is right. Well said. Sorry, Mom.
Okay, so starting with our VIP questions, if you were chosen to be one of the first colonists on Mars, what 3 things or people would you take with you?
All right. So your producer gave me this ahead of time, these 3 questions. So I had a moment to think about this. And I told my husband I would, well, because I have to explain my thinking. I am an ENFP, so I'm all about people. So I'm taking humans. So my 3 things are my husband and my daughter. And then we're going to need to populate Mars. So I'm letting her bring her husband, Craig. So my oldest stepson is in Germany, saving the world. So he should keep doing that. My youngest stepson can take care of all our animals here and keep them safe. So that's the plan. And my husband's like, okay, so you want to bring people instead of things, but why wouldn't you bring like Elon Musk or somebody who can help us develop Mars? We don't. I'm like, well, Craig, my son-in-law, he's an engineer, he can help. Yeah. And I said, well, I'm just one of the first colonists. I think everybody else will bring all that stuff. I'm just going to bring people I love. So that's an ENFP rationalization for those of you who know Myers-Briggs for why I'm bringing the people I want.
And I love that we're both ENFPs, so we get each other. We're like, that's why I know exactly why you do that.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay, next question. What is one thing you do each morning to set your day up for success?
And you've talked to Pilar, so you know that morning rituals are so important. Mm-hmm. And I have so many. And after reading her amazing book, it even grew longer. But it's like making my bed and working out and brushing my teeth and drinking water, all huge. But I think the one thing that sets me up for success is loving on my family. Mm-hmm. So my husband and our animals, that's who lives in this house now. We're empty nesters. And I think what that does, just a good morning kiss with my husband and snuggling on all the animals, it gives me perspective. It just gives me perspective because I have workaholic tendencies and I'm just always an activator, go, go, go. And I need that moment of grounding with what matters most in order to be successful. Because the other thing that can happen when you're a workaholic is you can get really caught up in your ego and yourself. And, I'm out there doing this for me and here I go. And when you're holding people and animals that you love, that's not why you're doing everything. It's not all about you and your ego. So it's very grounding for me. That's the thing that makes me more successful.
I love that. I really do. And I love how you said that it gets you out of your ego, and it's true. Successful people like you, it would be really easy for you to just go, yeah, I don't have time for you.
Yeah. Little people. Yeah.
Yes. Call my people. Yeah. They'll call yours. Okay. My final question for you. If your life's work was being summarized in a news article, what would the headline be?
Taking the lead, a story of working, healing, and growing myself and others.
I can absolutely see that. For sure.
I got a subtitle in there. You like that?
Yes, I do. I do. And I actually brought a copy of your book today. So I really want to encourage everybody to go get this book because I just think it's going to help you so much throughout life and your career. So, Terri, how do people find you?
You can find probably my firm's website is the best way. That would be inspiredtraining.net. or inspiredtraininginstitute.com, but inspiredtraining.net would be the easiest way. And there's email, contact, and phone numbers on there if anyone wants to reach me.
Awesome. And are you active on LinkedIn if people want to connect with you and follow you there?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm active on LinkedIn. And you can also find me on other social media, but I think LinkedIn is the one I probably check the most. So feel free to message me.
Awesome. Terri, I just have one last thing to say to you.
What's that?
You are a VIP.
Oh, thank you, Casey.
And that's a wrap for today. Join us next week here on the We Are VIP podcast. We'd love to know how we can help you be a VIP. To find out more, log on to wearevip.com.